Welcome to Tea in the Morning. I'm your host, Tea, and let's get into it. So, Florida lawmakers are finally allowed to enter Alligator Alcatraz. We're going to talk about it. So, it's been a couple of weeks since it's been an ongoing fight between ICE agents, the Trump administration, and representatives in Congress trying to either get access or deny access into this new facility to check the conditions. And there was a lot of Democrat lawmakers that showed up a couple of weeks ago to see the conditions because there was rumors going around that the air wasn't working correctly, and it was hot out there in Florida, y'all, especially in the summertime. There was leaking water faucets. There was floods happening everywhere. There's bugs, infestations, and they wanted to take a look to see if it was, able to hold humans. If it was humane enough. And the Republican governor, Ron DeSantis, says that it's completely safe and secure. The Democrat lawmakers are saying it's inhumane. And 2 days after filing a lawsuit against Ron DeSantis for being unlawfully denied entry to inspect conditions at the facility that was dubbed Alligator Alcatraz, members of Congress and state representatives were given a limited tour on Saturday to inspect conditions after calling the lack of access a deliberate obstruction meant to hide what's really happening behind those gates. They said in a joint statement after their tour, they heard detainees shouting for help and crying out for freedom amid the sweltering heat and along all the bug infestations that's going on. They're saying there's mosquitoes like crazy out there. It's Florida. That's what I expect. I mean, there's mosquitoes out here and I'm in New York. But I imagine in a place where there's by the swamps, waters, there's alligators and all kinds of things, there's going to be a horrible infestation of mosquitoes. Lawmakers saying they are essentially packed into cages, wall-to-wall humans, 32 detainees per cage, Representative Debbie Wasserman said. The families of some of the detainees have also decried conditions in the facility, while immigration and custom enforcement officers defend what's going on, and they say they are offering higher detention standards than many U.S. prisons. And we already know we know that's a lie. We already know that's a lie, but we're going to keep going. So lawmakers are shown empty cells on the tour. The lawmakers said they were not allowed to visit areas where migrants are currently being detained, but instead were shown cells that were not being used yet. And I wonder why. What are they hiding? Obviously, this whole situation just isn't going right. And I understand removing the people who come over and does nothing but cause havoc and crime, don't want to do nothing to better their lives or to better their situation or to help better the U.S., right? That's different. I understand it. But now you're just picking on people who's been here for years, who are holding down jobs, actually living in households, raising families, their families grew up here, were born here, go to school, and go to work here. And now you just want to take all their rights away and throw them in such conditions. When they toured the facilities, Weisserman said each cage contained 3 small toilets and attached sinks, which detainees use for drinking water and brushing their teeth, sharing the same water used to flush the toilets. When they toured the kitchen area, government employees were being offered large pieces of roasted chicken and sausages, while the detainees' lunch consisted of a gray-looking turkey and cheese sandwich, 1 apple, and a few chips. Weisserman says, I don't see how that could possibly sustain them nutritionally or not make them more hungry. And when you have hungry people, obviously their mood begins to change. Representative Maxwell Alejandro Frost who was also on the tour, said that lawmakers were concerned about the reports of unhygienic conditions due to the toilets not working and feces being spread everywhere. But where detained access from viewing units where the migrants are actually detained, so they cannot confirm or deny what's happening over there because they were still denied access even though they were inside the building. They were also not permitted to view the medical facility, with the officials at Alligator Alcatraz citing the HIPAA laws, despite lawmakers being allowed to examine the medical facilities at any other detention facility in the U.S. It's funny that they're citing HIPAA law when they're breaking all of them anyways, okay? And let's not forget the first round of the administration when they were forcing women, they were tracking menstrual cycles. It was a little bit crazy. So no, we do not trust that you have in these people's best interests at hand. The lawmaker said it's something everyone, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or anything, should be deeply ashamed of. Immigrants do not poison the blood of this nation. They are the blood of this nation. This nation was built on immigrants. We all know that. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that you should just be over here legally and just, not try to become a U.S. citizen. I'm all for it. But I have friends and family who, we all grew up with everybody. Come on. And I get when you want to go out there and you join gangs and violence and crimes, then you must go. Because you're not contributing to anything in society for yourself or for others. The U.S. Republican Representative, Darren Soto said lawmakers also witnessed evidence of flooding, highlighting serious concerns of what could happen to detainees if there was severe weather during a busy hurricane season. What we saw in our inspections today was a political stunt, dangerous and wasteful, Soto said. One can't help but to understand and conclude that this is a total cruel political stunt meant to have a spectacle of political theater, and it's wasting our taxpayer dollars and putting our ICE agents and our troops, along with ICE detainees, in complete jeopardy. About 900 people are currently detained at this facility, but it has the capacity to hold about 3,000 people, with room for more, according to the executive director of the Florida Division of Emergency Management. The wife of a 43-year-old Guatemalan man who is currently detained at Alligator Alcatraz told CNN her husband is enduring harsh conditions similar to those described by lawmakers who toured the facility. There are too many mosquitoes in here, she said. He's in a really bad condition. The power goes off at times because they're using generators. The detainees are also being held in tents, and it's very hot outside. There's not enough food. Sick people are not getting medication. Every time I ask about his situation, he tells me it's bad. Her and her husband and their 11-month-old baby went fishing on June 25th in the Everglades. A Florida wildlife officer approached them and asked for documents. Her husband had a valid driver's license. She said, but when the officer realized that she didn't have any documents proving she was in the country legally, the officers called immigration authorities to detain the entire family. And after spending about 7.5 hours in what she described as a dirty holding cell, she and her baby, a U.S. citizen, was released, but her husband was detained. She now is wearing an ankle bracelet. Her husband later told her that he has remained in detention in Fort Lauderdale for about 8 days before transferring over to Alligator Alcatraz. Once he was transferred, he was unable to take a shower for 6 days, and there were not enough facilities for washing hands. This is insane. But we are in a different time, you guys, but together we can make a change. We just gotta stick together, you know what I mean? So the Department of Homeland Security, which oversees Florida's detention facility, did not immediately reply to any of the local requests to reporters as of right now, but we are closely watching this. We're keeping a close eye on this story, and we will keep everybody on it when we find out. So once we find out, you'll know it. But listen, there are real things going on, but if we stick together, everybody, we are good. But that's wishful thinking at the moment. But you know what? It doesn't matter. I hope you all have a beautiful day. Shine as bright as the sun, and I will speak to you later. Bye-bye.